together as one big, fat, happy family. Okay, we can. God put it in us. I know He did. I'm absolutely certain of that. I would not be saying these things to you if I didn't believe it. But we're in a heap of mess because the evil forces, the establishmentarian forces, are going to have a conniption fit. They're apoplectic about these last few grains of sand that the gig is up, the jig is up, and they're being called out. And the fact is that they're going down. And it's not at the hands of Trump or all the goody two shoes out there. We're just human beings. And look how we've been ineffectual and feckless at effecting change over thousands of years. We've had all this time. The good, decent, upright people that have lived one generation after another have been totally ineffectual at producing any change, any progress here. So it is that literal hand of God that we're going to see changes. The literal finger of God, and yes, He's using people and saints and martyrs and all this kind of thing in modern day, and there's comfort. God comforts us with the good, decent, upright people. I love to listen to good, decent, upright people they're encouraging. I love to listen to Hal Lindsey. I love to listen to Max and Stacy on the Kaiser Report. Now, they apparently have been censored recently. They typically have a 25-minute plus video every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Okay, they do a 25-plus minute show on the Kaiser Report. And this last one, the yesterday's, was 4 minutes long, and it was just cut off abruptly, and that's very peculiar. So unless the footage was corrupted somehow and they couldn't play it, and that was just they played what they could, then it was censored somehow, and it's in a very peculiar manner. I mean, this is RT. This is a big company. So I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay, I know they're after Alex Jones. But, free speech is paramount to maintain in America. I mean, absolute. As much as we can absolutely, with just very few exceptions, the whole falsely yelling fire in a crowded theater. Okay, yeah. And yes, I believe death threats, yeah. Veiled one evens, too, because that could be code. So, yeah, you got to watch the psychos out there that are doing that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you're not free to do that kind of thing. Like, for example, El Chapo gives some coded message somehow. So, yeah, I put a hit out on this guy or that guy. I mean, El Chapo, speaking of El Chapo, I mean, why isn't the mainstream media not a whisper, okay, of how these people, this propaganda machine, they turn a mountain into a molehill, okay, and a molehill into a mountain. Okay, this El Chapo thing with Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz coming out saying, hey, look, we have confiscated this guy's money. Apparently he's got like well over the $5 billion needed for Trump's border security apparatus. Okay, let's just take it from him. These are seized assets by the federal government. Let's just attach these things and just seize them and use them, and we'll settle this argument right now. But you know what you find out is really that this status quo that the mainstream media is getting their marching orders from, that's running. Remember these same people, the kingpins, the masterminds, the grand puppeteers, the money masters, these people that don't care what you are, if you're a conservative, liberal, socialist, capitalist, Democrat, Republican. Really, they don't. We've got to get that through our heads. Okay, these people don't want border security. Okay, that's it. They love the status quo. Remember, it's not just hungry, strong, young immigrants that they're bringing in to displace the older, cocky American workers. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, they love that. Like Bill Kristol, that journalist, commentator, that repugnant fascist fellow, elitist, pig, hypocrite guy. He thinks it's great. We got to put these cocky minimum wage workers in their place. I mean, nothing can be absolutely further from. I mean, it's such a departure from any semblance of reality, because minimum wage has been totally declining since the assassination of JFK. Things have been going down the tubes. Okay, the Labor Department's in the pockets of the Federal Reserve. They're just totally scamming and scheming and thieving from the working class, poor. How do you think this thing works? How do you think theft works? I mean, that's what oppression is all about. They're stealing. How do you think imposed austerity works? That's it. So that's what these people are doing. So yeah, that's great. They got that going on, but they also got the artificial demand. So it's like, and I have no idea. It boggles the mind why there's no discussion. I mean, it doesn't boggle my mind. I know, but I mean, everybody else should ask these questions and say, does it boggle your mind too? Why the mainstream media doesn't talk about, well, how are these people getting housing when we've got millions of our own native-born American citizens, mostly white men, though now there's more white women out there that are dying out in the cold. So they're committing genocide right under our noses. Do you understand what's going on here? We call ourselves a Christian nation, yet Jesus called himself the least of men. So this is what we're doing to Jesus Christ. And you think there's not a curse on our land? A big, fat, hairy one, okay? And we should all be shaking in our shoes. I am. That's why I'm scared. I'm scared that people aren't going to get it before it's too late. And that's the way the warning goes. That makes it ever so much more ominous and foreboding and frightening, to be quite frank, that people aren't going to get it. They're going to be caught with their pants down. A thief's going to come into your house and rob you, and you're going to be unawares because you were sleeping, you were mesmerized, you were under a trance, you were under a spell by the establishmentarians that got your mind distracted and thinking that your enemy was some liberal or some conservative, some Democrat, some Republican, okay, some socialist, some capitalist. When really the people pulling the strings of our societies that are creating the discontent and the lack of cohesion, okay, politically and socially and economically speaking, don't give a crap. They're monsters. This is the way it works because their religion is diabolism. They always have to stay a few steps ahead of us. But all they have up their sleeve, in the context of this deliberate impoverishment, when people figure that out, they're going to become impoverished. Yes, at least let's establish that. And then we say, okay, but there's a context. It's because they're trying to save the planet. So you have a lower carbon footprint. You can't afford to burn energy. Do you understand how this works? So it's all very clear. This is it. It's about saving the planet, about the impoverishment. Yes, that's why. So they're ready for that. And that's what they got. But without any discussion about disruptive technology, clean, perpetual, ever-present energy sources. Okay, even though there's debate about whether we need CO2 or not, I mean, Mother Nature does burn up for us by lightning strikes, so, and volcanoes, that's been going on since the beginning of Earth, as far back as records go, right? So that's all very natural to create wanton amounts of CO2, carbon dioxide. We need it, the plants need it, they breathe it, right? And then they create the oxygen. So this whole idea that humans are responsible for screwing up the planet is a lie from the pit of hell. So there's one lie after the other. Or that it's incompetence, that we have the lack of cohesion in our land. That, this bailout of '08, well, they were just too big to fail. You understand, it would be just so disruptive to society, the status quo, the state of affairs, that, we had to do this, even though, we call America democracy and a republic, and we went against the will of over 90% of the American people who did not want that bailout. But how often do you hear the mainstream media talking about that? How often do you hear the mainstream media talking about revisiting 2008 and talking about the ramifications, the implications if things had gone the other way and they hadn't been bailed out? I never hear it. Here I am trying to just invoke thought in people and inspire thought in people. Say, hey, come on, please help me out here. I'm flapping in the wind. Let's all figure this thing out and go for the jugular, go for the root, put the axe to the root. It's the Federal Reserve Bank. I mean, in light of the fact that JFK was abolishing the Federal Reserve, that's just a matter of record. Okay, so I'm not making anything up. Look it up, research it yourself. Okay, he was already supplanting the Federal Reserve notes with these silver notes, silver certificates that were already in circulation. You can look up the images of them. This is all matter of record, matter of fact. Okay, so Executive Order 11,110, he was signed into law, okay, but it was never enacted. And suspiciously, he was murdered. Can you imagine the power behind the purse? You understand? It's satanic power. It's wanton power. It's vast power. Okay, that evil forces, yeah, they're murderous. I mean, this is what they'll do. They'll kill the head of the states. They'll alter history. This is biblical level evil, is what we're talking about here. This is where God is really his antennas are perking up at times like this in history. This is when, like the analogy of the frogs, the American people were plunked in the pot. They got away with this stuff for all intents and purposes. And look up the Overton window. They keep moving the Overton window. They had to start out slow and stealthily. They couldn't move too fast and scare us and say, hey, get rid of the Federal Reserve. Why does this entity exist? Day one. I mean, any hint of impropriety, yet the impropriety was glaring on the part of the Federal Reserve. Know that